From the water, Hobart looks peaceful. Soft hills, quiet suburbs, the wide Derwent River carrying you north. And then Mona appears. Low, angular, half-hidden, not a grand palace on a hill, but something that seems embedded in the landscape, like it was carved out of the earth and decided to stay mysterious. On my third visit to Mona, I'm reminded why this place feels less like a museum and more like a portal. Mona stands for Museum of Old and New Art, but the name is almost misleading. It's not organized like the museums we grew up with. There isn't a neat timeline or a polite start here, finish there. Instead, it's designed to make you wonder, react, question, sometimes even feel uncomfortable. It's equal parts art, architecture, theatre, and provocation. Approaching from land feels different again. You follow this path between the vines, and the mood shifts. Suddenly is quieter, more intimate. The building stays calm on the outside, but you can already sense the strange energy underneath. And before you even see the first artwork, Mona catches you with the details. The gift store that feels like a gallery on its own. And then that lift. The one that takes you down, down, down into the museum like you're entering a secret bunker. Most museums take you up to the top floor and work your way down. Mona does the opposite. It pulls you underground first, as if the real story here isn't on the surface, but hidden beneath it. Alright, let's go in. Here, everything feels like it's floating. Glass spheres hanging in the dark like captured planets. That giant transparent bubble looks delicate, but it also feels tense, like it's holding its breath. And then, an instant Mona icon, Fat Car by Erwin Wurm. They even had to create a roof opening just to bring it inside. It looks playful at first, but it's really a critique, stretching the idea of luxury until it becomes absurd, a status symbol swollen and distorted, turning desire and excess into something almost human, and slightly unsettling. Next are two Mona staples, almost permanent exhibits. First, everyone's favourite, the waterfall. I could stand here for ages, watching words drop from above one after another. And then this video installation, a choir performing Madonna songs with each singer separated into their own monitor, like individual parts of a single song. This is something I didn't see last time. It's 4 p.m, an installation by Dean Stevenson. It's empty this morning, but at exactly 4 p.m. each day, a quartet turns up to play a piece written that very day. Music made against a deadline. Performed once, then gone. Here comes another one of Mona's most infamous near-permanent works, Cloaca Professional by Wim Delvoye. It's basically a mechanical digestive system. Food goes in, chemistry does its work, and what comes out is uncomfortably real. The smell makes it impossible to ignore, turning something private and human into a public spectacle. One of my favourites at Mona is When My Heart Stops Beating by Patrick Hall. Open a drawer and a voice whispers, "I love you." Tender, repetitive, and a little haunting, like love filed away into an archive. As the camera starts high, you can really feel how theatrical this hall is. Concrete, echoing, almost like a bunker built to hold big ideas. Mona doesn't just hang art on walls here, it builds spaces that swallow you. And then you see it. Memorial to Sacred Wind, or The Tomb of Kamikaze, by Gene Tinguely. A rusted machine that looks like a wrecked engine, chained together out of scrap and force. Even when it's still, it feels alive, like it could lurch into motion at any moment. It's part sculpture, part threat, a monument to noise, speed, and collapse. Right beside it, the mood shifts to something quieter, but just as unsettling. A simple chair, except it's balanced on this heavy stone sphere underneath, like stability has been turned into a joke. The floor pattern and the lighting make everything feel slightly unreal, like you're standing on the edge of a trick. And then the centerpiece of this corridor, 2050 by Richard Wilson, the Black Oil Room. From above it looks like a perfect mirror. From low down it becomes a void. It's beautiful, but it's also uncomfortable, because your eyes keep insisting it's a solid floor, while your body knows it isn't. This whole hall is Mona at its best. Spectacle, tension, and the feeling that the building itself is part of the artwork. This little side room is Grotto by Randy Palumbo. Everything is silver and inflated, like a futuristic cave you can sink into. The surfaces shimmer as you move, turning the tunnel into a brief, strange pause, half lounge, half dream. This space is part of Elektra, Mona's newer wing, and it immediately feels like stepping into a different chapter of the museum. The last time I was here, back in 2019, this wing simply didn't exist. Mona already felt underground and endless then, but walking into Elektra now, you realize the place is still expanding, still reinventing itself. The room opens up. Higher ceilings, white walls, a kind of quiet that makes you slow down. And then you're surrounded by these monumental works by Anselm Kiefer, so large they don't feel like paintings anymore. They feel like environments. Kiefer's work is never just about an image. It's about surface, layers that look scraped, burned, rebuilt. Even from a distance you can sense the weight in it, the greys like ash, the textures like weathered earth, the marks that feel carved rather than painted. And when you move closer, you start to notice the material reality. Branches embedded, rough lines, scars and seams that turn the canvas into something almost architectural. Across these walls you get repeated shapes and feelings. huge curved spaces like arenas, horizons that stretch out into emptiness, fields that look harvested, scorched, or abandoned. There are tiny details that read like windows or lights, small human-scale signals trapped inside something enormous. It's as if you're looking at history from a distance, and then realizing it's not distant at all. It's right there in the texture. What I love about this hall is how it changes Mona's rhythm. The museum is usually a maze, dark corridors, tight rooms, sudden shocks. But here, the spectacle is slow. It's not shouting at you, it's just standing there, heavy and silent, letting you absorb it. And honestly, that's why this room stays with me and became my new favorite here. It feels like Mona has gained a new lung, somewhere to pause, to breathe, and to face work that's less about surprise and more about scale, memory, and time. Inside Elektra, the architecture is as much the artwork as anything on the walls. It's this multi-level concrete theatre. Doors cut into balconies, stairs dropping into voids, and platforms where you're constantly looking up, down, and across at other visitors like you're all part of the scene. The sound changes too. Every footstep echoes, and the space slows you down. Even the corridors feel curated. These hanging strips look like film negatives, images turned into a curtain you literally walk through, like passing through an archive of memory and time. And honestly, I was so absorbed by everything around me that I did something ridiculous. I stepped straight into a gap in the floor, with water in it. One whole shoe was soaked, but it didn't ruin the day at all, and I laughed. If anything, it felt very Mona. When a place is this spectacular, even a wet shoe can't break the spell. Before we head to Faro Bar Restaurant, we pass through a small corridor of pure colour, Beside Myself by James Turrell. The blue light softens everything, quieting the senses, as if the museum is gently resetting your eyes before the next room. Then Faro opens up, calm, luminous, and framed by water. With the River Derwent pressed against the glass, the restaurant feels almost afloat, suspended between the museum and the landscape outside. From the drone, you can finally read the architecture, that sculptural form extending toward the river, a clean silhouette that has become one of Mona's most recognizable shapes. Lunch arrives like a continuation of the galleries, plates composed with the same attention as an artwork, color, texture, negative space. Each course feels deliberate, not simply served but curated, inviting you to slow down and look before you taste. And then, quietly, the room shifts again. Two performers move among the tables, part ritual, part theatre, one draped in black, carrying objects with the care of ceremonial tools, the other poised and watchful, like a figure from a tableau. They don't interrupt the meal so much as deepen it, reminding you that at Mona, even dining can become a kind of performance. It's a rare kind of luxurious lunch, not just delicious, but immersive. Light, water, architecture, and art, all folded into the same moment. Theo Mercier's Mirrorscape takes over a space I remember as Mona's library on my last visit, and the transformation is genuinely shocking. Where people once came to read, you now look into a sealed, glowing landscape made from locally sourced sand, sculpted into the aftermath of a disaster. Familiar objects, mattresses, car parts, fragments of everyday life are frozen mid-collapse, as if time stopped at the exact moment everything gave way. The warm light makes it strangely beautiful, but it never stops feeling unsettling. A ruin that's both real and unreal, like memory turned into terrain. It's Mona doing what it does best, turning a room into a world. This towering library is built from lead books and shards of glass. Knowledge made heavy and fragile at the same time. It feels like an archive after a catastrophe. Unreadable volumes, broken edges, and a silence that presses in. Anselm Kiefer turns the idea of a library into a ruin. Beautiful, imposing, and faintly unbearable. Mona has a reputation for being provocative, but the real thread running through it is surprisingly old-fashioned. The two subjects, humans, never stop circling: sex and death. Sex is there as appetite, as power, as comedy, as vulnerability. It's not presented as something pretty or polite. Mona treats desire as a force that shapes bodies and decisions. Something you can't separate from ego, shame, fantasy, and control. Sometimes it's playful, sometimes confrontational, but it always insists that the body is part of the story. And then death is the counterweight, not as a distant concept, but as something physical and unavoidable. You see it in the darkness of the tunnels, in rooms that feel like bunkers or tombs, in works that deal with decay, memory, extinction, and the things we leave behind. Mona doesn't offer comfort or neat conclusions. It lets death sit in the room, heavy, quiet, and permanent. What makes Mona feel different is that it doesn't separate these themes. Sex and death aren't opposites here. They're linked. Desire is a reminder we're alive. Death is the limit that gives life urgency. Between them is everything else: pleasure, fear, violence, intimacy, ritual, loss. That's why walking through Mona can feel like moving through the inside of the human mind. Not a lesson, not a timeline, but a series of confrontations. It's a museum that isn't afraid of the body and isn't afraid of the end, and somehow that honesty is what makes it so alive. And that's Mona, part museum, part dream. I'm leaving with more questions than answers, and that's exactly the point. Until next time.